Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring some really rich material. You've brought us excerpts from Matthew's Gospel, specifically chapters 13 through 16.
That's right.
And this section is, well, it's just packed with Jesus's parables, some core teachings, and accounts of really significant events.
Absolutely. Foundational stuff.
So our aim here is to go beyond just, a surface read. We want to dig into the essential messages, maybe uncover some surprising angles for you, our listeners. Ready to jump in?
Definitely. Even if you know these stories, there's always more to find, I think.
Okay, let's start with Matthew 13 then. It really is overflowing with parables. Jesus clearly saw the power in using stories to explain complex spiritual ideas, didn't he?
He really did. And the parable of the sower right at the start there, it's such a vivid picture.
It is. You've got the seeds falling on, what, four different kinds of ground? The path, rocky soil, thorny ground, and then the good earth.
Exactly. And it immediately makes you think about how we receive information, how ideas land with us.
Right. And what's insightful is how quickly Jesus, or rather Matthew recounting Jesus, diagnoses why some messages stick and others just don't.
hmm The wayside, the path that's like hearing something, but it just doesn't sink in at all, does it? Snatched away, as he puts it. Maybe you don't get it. Or distractions. Poof.
Yeah, the wicked one snatches it away. Then the stony ground. That initial excitement, like when you hear a great idea and think, yes.
But there's no root. So when things get tough, maybe you face some pushback or it requires real effort.
It withers. That enthusiasm fades fast.
Precisely. At the thorny ground, well, that feels incredibly relevant today, wouldn't you say?
Oh, completely. Choked by the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches. It's like our good intentions get swamped by deadlines, worries, just
Mm.
life.
It prevents the message from becoming fruitful,
Yeah.
but then you get the good ground.
Yes. Where the seed takes root, it's understood, and it actually produces something.
And what's interesting there is that even the good ground has different yields, 100-fold, 60-30.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Even in the best-case scenario, the outcome isn't uniform. Makes you wonder what affects that level of fruitfulness in our own lives when we really connect with something.
It does. And Jesus actually explains this whole thing to his disciples later. He points out that the parables are meant to reveal the secrets of the kingdom to those who are, well, ready to hear.
But for others, it conceals them. He even quotes Isaiah about people seeing but not perceiving, hearing but not understanding. It sounds a bit paradoxical.
It is, slightly. It suggests that our own openness, our posture matters hugely. Are we just passively listening or are we actively trying to understand?
So the parable itself is almost like a filter testing the listener.
In a way, yes. It engages those who are genuinely seeking.
Okay. Then right after that, we have the parable of the tares. This one feels different.
It does. Here you have good seed, the children of the kingdom, sown by the Son of Man.
But then an enemy, the devil, Jesus says, comes and secretly sows weeds, tares among the wheat.
And the really striking part is the instruction from the householder. Don't pull up the weeds yet.
Right. Let them grow together until the harvest. Why? Because you might accidentally pull up the wheat too.
Exactly. The separation comes at the end. The harvest, which he explains is the end of the age. Angels are the reapers.
It's a pretty stark image of, well, good and evil just coexisting in the world, and patience being required.
And a delay in judgment. It tells us that things aren't always immediately sorted out. Sometimes good and bad are tangled up, and discernment takes time. It cautions against maybe hasty judgments.
That makes sense. It's a longer game.
Yeah.
Then we get this cluster of shorter parables, almost like snapshots.
Yeah, the mustard seed.
Starts tiny, the smallest seed, but grows into this big tree providing shelter.
And the leaven, just a little bit hidden in the dough, but it makes the whole batch rise.
Both showing how the kingdom might start small, maybe unnoticed, but has this huge pervasive impact eventually.
Exactly. Then the hidden treasure and the pearl of great price.
Ah, yes, finding something so valuable of the kingdom that you'd literally sell everything you own to get it. That's radical commitment.
It conveys the sheer, overwhelming worth of it. It reorders your whole life.
And finally, the parable of the net. Cast into the sea, gathers all kinds of fish.
Good and bad. And then, at the end of the age again, the angels sort them out. Similar theme to the tares, that final separation.
So after all these, Jesus asks the disciples, have you understood all these things? And they say yes.
And he gives that lovely image of the scribe trained for the kingdom being like a householder, bringing out treasures, both new and old. Wisdom incorporates both.
But then The contrast. He goes back to his hometown, Nazareth.
And the reaction is totally different. They're astonished, sure, by his wisdom and mighty works.
But they can't get past who they think he is. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother Mary? Don't we know his brothers and sisters?
That familiarity breeds, well, not contempt exactly, but offense. They're offended by him. They can't reconcile the ordinary boy they knew with this extraordinary man.
It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? How our own assumptions or familiarity can blind us to something amazing right in front of us.
It really is. We might dismiss potential because it doesn't fit our neat little boxes.
A sobering thought. Okay, moving into chapter 14, the narrative shifts. Less metaphor, more events, and direct teaching.
Right, and it starts darkly. With Herod Antipas, he hears about Jesus' fame.
And his immediate reaction is fear. This is John the Baptist. He has been raised from the dead.
Which leads into the grim backstory of John's execution. Herod had imprisoned him for criticizing his marriage to Herodias, his brother's wife.
And then at Herod's birthday party, Herodias' daughter dances, pleases Herod, and he makes a rash oath.
Prompted by her mother, she asks for John the Baptist's head on a platter.
Awful. And Herod, though distressed, feels bound by his oath and the guests watching.
So he has John beheaded. It's a brutal story, a stark contrast to the kingdom Jesus talks about. It shows the real danger and political tension surrounding Jesus.
Absolutely. And Herod's fear, even after John is dead, speaks volumes. John's death also kind of foreshadows Jesus' own fate, doesn't it?
Tragically, yes. Speaking truth to power had and has consequences.
It's right after Jesus hears about John's death that he withdraws to a deserted place. But the crowds follow him.
And Matthew says Jesus had compassion on them and healed their sick.
Then evening comes, they're in the middle of nowhere, and the disciples get practical, send the crowds away so they can go buy food.
But Jesus says they need not go away. You give them something to eat, which must have sounded impossible.
Completely. They only have 5 loaves and 2 fish for, well, 5,000 men, plus women and children.
But Jesus takes what they have, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to the disciples to distribute.
And everyone eats and is satisfied. And the leftovers, 12 baskets full. It's just this incredible demonstration of divine power and compassion.
What stands out is the disciples' view, right? They saw scarcity. Jesus operated from abundance. It's a lesson in perspective when facing huge problems. Are we seeing limits or possibilities?
And involving the disciples in distributing it, that's key too.
Definitely. Then, immediately after this, another iconic event. Walking on the water.
Jesus sends the disciples ahead in the boat while he goes up the mountain to pray. Then a storm hits the boat.
And in the middle of the storm, early morning, they see Jesus walking on the sea towards them.
Their reaction, terror. It's a ghost.
Understandable, maybe. But Jesus calls out, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Such reassuring words.
Then Peter, impulsive Peter, says, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water."
And Jesus says, "Come." And Peter actually does it. He gets out and walks on the water towards Jesus.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But then he looks away from Jesus, sees the wind and the waves.
And he gets scared, starts to sink, and cries out, "Lord, save me."
Jesus immediately reaches out, catches him, and then that gentle rebuke. "Oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt?"
It's such a human moment. Faith holds steady when focused, but falters when we focus on the storm around us. Peter's experience is a powerful metaphor.
And when they get back in the boat, the wind stops. And the disciples, they worship him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." A real turning point in their understanding.
A significant leap, yes, prompted by seeing his power over nature itself.
After this, they cross over to Gennesaret, and people recognize Jesus. They bring all the sick.
And just touching the fringe of his garment is enough to heal them. It emphasizes this almost ambient power radiating from him.
But then, chapter 15, we get a major confrontation. Scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem come questioning.
And their issue is ritual purity. Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat.
Jesus' response is immediate and sharp. He doesn't debate the hand washing itself. He turns it back on them. And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition?
He uses the example of Corban, declaring something devoted to God to avoid using it to support aging parents, thus breaking the command to honor your father and mother.
He calls them hypocrites, quotes Isaiah about honoring God with their lips while their hearts are far away, teaching human rules as doctrine.
And then he delivers that bombshell statement to the crowd. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a person.
That's huge, shifting the focus entirely from external rituals to internal morality.
Absolutely. He later explains to the disciples that evil thoughts, murder, adultery, theft, false witness, slander, these come from the heart, and these are what defile, not
Huh.
eating with unwashed hands.
The disciples even point out, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying?
And Jesus essentially dismisses them as blind guides leading the blind. Anything not planted by God will be uprooted. He's drawing a very clear line.
He's forcing a reevaluation of what true religion, true righteousness actually is. It's about the heart.
Precisely. It's a recurring theme, inner reality over outward appearance.
Then a very different kind of encounter, the Canaanite woman.
Yes, from the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman pleading for her daughter who is tormented by a demon.
His initial response is honestly quite jarring. I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and then, it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs.
It sounds harsh, but her response is incredible. Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table.
Such humility, persistence, and sharp wit, and faith. She believes even the crumbs of his power are enough.
And Jesus is clearly moved by this. O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire. And her daughter was healed instantly.
It's powerful. It shows faith isn't confined by ethnicity or background. Her faith broke through those perceived barriers.
It really did. It shows Jesus responding to genuine faith wherever he found it.
After this, more healings, and then another large-scale feeding, the feeding of the 4,000.
Similar situation.
Yeah.
Large crowd, remote place. They've been with him 3 days and have nothing to eat. Jesus again has compassion.
This time they start with 7 loaves and a few small fish.
And again, everyone eats and is satisfied. The leftovers this time fill 7 large baskets.
Repeating this kind of miracle really hammers home the theme of divine provision and his care for people's basic needs, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Consistent demonstration of his power and compassion.
Okay, chapter 16. The opposition ramps up again. Pharisees and Sadducees team up this time.
And they come testing him, asking for a sign from heaven, proof on their terms.
Jesus' reply is quite cutting. He points out they can read the weather signs in the sky, red sky at night, sailor's delight, kind of thing.
But you cannot discern the signs of the times. He calls them a wicked and adulterous generation seeking a sign.
And he says no sign will be given except the sign of Jonah. Then he just leaves them.
His frustration seems clear. They aren't genuinely seeking, just demanding. The sign of Jonah, of course, points towards his death and resurrection 3 days, like Jonah in the fish.
Then in the boat again, he warns the disciples, watch out and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees.
And what did the disciples do? They completely misunderstand. They start worrying because they forgot to bring bread.
It's almost comical, but also very human. After seeing thousands fed miraculously twice, they're worried about packed lunches.
Jesus has to spell it out. How is it that you fail to understand that I did not speak about bread? Beware of the leaven, that is the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees.
It shows they're still learning, still sometimes stuck on the literal, missing the deeper spiritual point.
Definitely part of their journey.
Yeah.
But then comes this absolute watershed moment. They're near Caesarea Philippi.
And Jesus asks them, point blank, who do people say that the Son of Man is?
They give the popular answers. John the Baptist, Elijah, Jeremiah, one of the prophets.
Then he gets personal. But who do you say that I am? The crucial question.
And Simon Peter steps up. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Wow. The definitive statement. And Jesus' response is equally powerful. He blesses Peter. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven.
This insight came from God. And then Jesus says, and I tell you, you are Peter Petros, and on this rock Petra I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
He gives Peter the keys of the kingdom of heaven, authority to bind and loose, essentially, to teach and lead with divine backing. It's a massive declaration.
Absolutely foundational for the future church. Peter's confession, prompted by God, becomes the bedrock.
But then, almost immediately, the mood shifts dramatically.
Yes. From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things, and be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised.
He lays it out plainly. Suffering, death, resurrection, and Peter's reaction.
He takes Jesus aside and actually rebukes him. Far be it from you, Lord. This shall never happen to you. He can't accept it.
And Jesus' response to Peter, the rock, is incredibly sharp. Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me.
For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. It's a stunning rebuke.
It really is. It shows how quickly even Peter could shift from divine insight to purely human, worldly thinking. He couldn't grasp a suffering Messiah.
Jesus had to make it crystal clear. The cross wasn't an accident to be avoided, it was the necessary path. Peter's thinking at that moment was opposed to God's plan.
In following this, Jesus lays out the cost of discipleship for everyone.
If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.
For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. That paradoxical truth again.
He asked that piercing question. What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? What's the ultimate value?
He speaks of his future return in glory with the angels, judging everyone, and then that intriguing statement.
Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
Which has sparked a lot of discussion, but clearly points to some imminent manifestation of his kingly power they would witness. It's a challenging, demanding call to follow him, whatever the cost.
It absolutely is. No sugarcoating the commitment required.
Wow. Okay, these chapters, Matthew 13 to 16, they cover so much ground. Just to kind of recap the big themes we've touched on for our listeners.
So there's the whole nature of the kingdom of heaven illustrated through all those different parables, how it grows, its value, the mix within it, the final sorting.
Right, and the crucial importance of not just hearing, but truly understanding the message. That distinction Jesus makes constantly.
Definitely. And the contrast between real heart-deep faith and just,
Yeah.
outward religious observance or tradition, Jesus hits that hard.
We also saw these incredible moments of compassion leading to miraculous provision, the feedings of the thousands, real power meeting real need,
And then, of course, the escalating clarity about who Jesus is, culminating in Peter's confession.
followed immediately by the stark reality of the cross and the cost of discipleship losing your life to find it. That's a major threat.
And thinking about maybe some surprising or particularly memorable details.
For me, the sower parable is just so psychologically astute. Those different soils, wayside, rocky, thorny, good, they feel like perfect descriptions of how we engage or fail to engage with important ideas.
That's true. And the tares parable, that idea that good and evil grow together for a long time, the patience required before the final separation, it's maybe not what we'd expect.
No, we often want things sorted out now. And the mustard seed image, huge results from tiny beginnings, that's always hopeful.
The radical call to lose your life is always arresting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to think about priorities.
It really does. And I also find the disciples' very human reactions quite striking. Their fear on the boat, their complete misunderstanding about the leaven. It makes them relatable.
Yeah, they weren't perfect. They were learning, stumbling, just like us.
So for you listening and wanting to deepen your own understanding, these ancient texts offer so much insight, don't they? Into human nature, how ideas spread, the difference between surface agreement and deep conviction.
It really prompts that self-reflection. What kind of soil am I cultivating for new knowledge? Am I letting worldly cares choke out deeper understanding? Am I judging too quickly?
How often do we maybe prioritize, I don't know, tradition or just the way things are done over core principles like the Pharisees did? These questions still resonate.
Absolutely. It makes you think about nurturing that good soil in yourself, being open, reflective, willing to grapple with challenging ideas so they can actually bear fruit, and being aware of the live in our own biases or assumptions.
So maybe a final thought to ponder as you go about your week. In our world, just flooded with information, opinions, demands on our attention, what does it really mean for you personally to hear and understand?
How can we actively cultivate that fertile ground within ourselves, not just for any information, but for knowledge that truly has value, that helps us grow? How do we discern the substance from the stuff that just withers or gets choked out?
Lots to think about there. Perhaps revisiting one specific parable or event from these chapters that caught your ear today could be a good next step.
Or even looking into the background. The context of first-century Judea can add another layer of richness.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us through Matthew 13 to 16.
It's been fascinating.
Until our next exploration.